Everyone, welcome. My name is Frank. This is Final Form Frank, and this isn't even my final form. Highlander is my favorite movie.
Here we are, born to be kings. We're the princes of the universe.
But hear me out. A movie is only good if it's enjoyable in some way. Some people love Antichrist by Lars von Trier. I think they should be on a watch list, but I mean, they enjoy it for some reason. The artistry, I believe. You can enjoy things that are outlandishly bad, like The Room, or if it's a masterpiece, The Shining, you can enjoy if you just really like it. However, I do think there is objectivity when we're talking about quality of films. You can admit something is qualitatively better than something else. You can say a movie is well made compared to another movie that is not. However, the opposite is true. You can admit something is qualitatively poorly made, but enjoy it. You can like it nonetheless. They call them so bad they're good, you know? That's what they typically say. I mentioned The Room because it's the go-to. Troll 2, Samurai Cop, those kind of movies. I mentioned Lars von Trier because Melancholia makes me feel bad. I don't want to watch it. There's another category, though. Sometimes you just like something. You don't really know why. You just do. I admit Highlander is a cheap-looking 80s action movie with a fantasy twist, and I love it. I love the movie. It's such a blast from the past. It's such an 80s movie with the swords, the hand-drawn effects on the cells. It just looks great. But the thing is, I thought about it, and I was like, you know, I really can't explain why I like Highlander so much. I can honestly say, of all the movies I've rewatched, I have definitely rewatched Highlander the most. But why? Why do I keep coming back to it years later? Well, for me, Highlander is my favorite movie because it has a great soundtrack, fun action, a villain you want to lose, and an interesting concept. Oh, plus the soundtrack. Queen killed that soundtrack. It is fantastic. So you might have noticed something when I was explaining it. I said the concept was interesting behind Highlander. That may surprise some of you who think it is simply a cheese movie. But that's why I'm making this video. Because it is more than that. It's full of cheese. There's several elements of Highlander that I found interesting. One is a cycle of violence. Two is a cycle of misunderstanding. Let's get into violence. Well, let's not commit violence, but let's get into it. To quickly give you an overview of Highlander, if you have never watched it, which I highly recommend you watch it, please go watch the movie before coming back here. Alright, did you watch it? Good. The movie opens at a wrestling match. I guess you can't get more 80s or 90s than that. There's a man watching it, and he is not entertained. Insert "Are you not entertained?" joke here. To him, the wrestling's fake. The fight's boring. He's not here for that. He leaves a fight, and he gets into a real one. A sword fight in the parking garage culminates in a decapitation and the man being arrested. So, who is this man? The main character is Connor MacLeod. He's a Scottish Highlander, hence the movie's name. However, you may notice Highlanders from a long time ago shouldn't be alive now. That's because Connor is an immortal. He died in battle, came back to life, and found out he was an immortal. Unfortunately, everyone thought he was like cursed by the devil or something, and so they wanted to stone him, and they sort of mistreated him, and then that was that. He left. I mean, what are they going to do? Kill him? He's an immortal. What are you going to do at that point? So Connor comes to find out from his new mentor, Ramirez, that the only way to kill another immortal is to slice their heads off, which explains the beginning of the movie. We know this now. Ramirez also trains Connor in the sword. He also teaches him how to live as an immortal. It also isn't long until the man who killed him finds Ramirez and takes his life. He is Connor's sworn enemy and our main antagonist, the Kurgan. Voiced by Mr. Krabs himself, Clancy Brown. I swear, once you hear the Kurgan and Mr. Krabs, you will never unhear it, and it makes the movie so much better. So Connor lives on with his wife. She ages and dies before his eyes. It is an amazing scene with a great score, but it is also ruined by the worst age makeup I have ever seen.
Heather! Who wants to live forever? Who wants to live forever? Heather!
Connor, I'm here!
Who dares to love forever? Oh, and love must die.
Centuries later, 1980s America, Connor finds that the quickening is upon them. This is the time when all of the immortals are arriving, and they start to kill one another. They fight for something, but what? A couple things. Just a step back. If you don't know, the term quickening is related to pregnancy. It's essentially the first movements of a baby that can be felt. As such, there's an interesting comparison. The immortals are coming together to kill one another. To what end? The movie doesn't tell us. Connor and Ramirez have no idea. But they are drawn to other immortals. And it inevitably leads to fights. Anyways, Connor was driven from his village and the people he knew. He had to start a new life, yet the cycle of violence never ended. Ramirez fought the Kurgan in the past, along with the others, and came for him again. While Connor was gone, Ramirez was killed, but he left a scar on the Kurgan's throat. It sort of ruined his voice later. In the movie, he has like these weird, I don't know, like pins or something, clothespins. It's kind of dumb looking. However, when Connor tried to retire, like he tried to just get married to the lady and she was getting old, he was just going to escape and leave and not deal with any of that. But why couldn't he leave? What was happening? Here's where Highlander deals with the philosophy of humanity. Whoa. You went from 80s cheese action into philosophy of humanity. Connor never confronted his issues. He lived on with his wife originally, watching her die. He then lived a decadent lifestyle and watched as war and pain ravaged the land. At one point, he goes through World War II. Violence continued to pursue Connor his entire life. And he fought back with violence to oppose it. However, his fight only made the Kurgan more angry and more obsessed. So how does Connor escape from that? Well, let's see the second part of this. Remember, cycle of violence, and second, part 2, the cycle of misunderstanding. Misunderstandings drive this movie. It's why Connor even got ousted from his village to begin with. But there's something at work to fix that. As I mentioned before, the quickening is related to the growth of a fetus. It's the first feelings of movement. As such, the quickening in Highlander could be understood as the movements before the birth of something new. This is explained at the end of the movie. It is not explained in the middle or the beginning of the movie. But let's shelve that for now. Connor already tried to leave the cycle of violence. We talked about that. He tried settling down. He did not confront his issues, and he just ignored them. It led to him staying the same age while his wife aged and died. Again, a fantastic use of Queen music in that scene, and I highly recommend you listen to the soundtrack. Also, watch the movie. The end. That's the whole reason he was in continental Europe. He was running away from the Kurgan. He even ran from Europe with Rachel to the United States. And once again, Rachel grew older. As things go on, the natural course of events unfurl, and we realize that something will happen when there's only one immortal left. If it's the Kurgan, we know something bad will happen. If it's Connor, maybe it'll be better, but we don't know what. Number 2, I wanted to hit on the point that there are 3 women in this story that each have important roles and different relationships to Connor. So Connor has an 80s woman that's the most recent, named Brenda. He's interested in her, but still he flees and avoids fighting the Kurgan if he can help it. But Brenda's curious. She's driven by knowledge. She loves history and she digs into ancient relics. Knowledge is Brenda's driving force. But why was Brenda the one that ended up with Connor? Why didn't he end up with Rachel?
You're not coming back. Even if you kill him, you're not coming back. Are you?
Sweet Rachel, you always knew this would happen. Russell Nash dies tonight.
In Connor's life are 3 women. His first wife, who he loved innocently, Rachel, who he rescued from the Nazis in World War II, and Brenda, who he bonded over a shared love of history and weapons with. If his first wife could be represented by love driven by escapism, then his relationship with Rachel was more familial. He thought of her as like a stepdaughter almost. It was really weird the way she felt about it. Maybe Connor just needed time. Maybe he needed time to grow or time to heal over the loss of his wife, and Rachel just showed up at a bad time. Eventually, though, after falling in love again, Connor realized something needed to change. If he's together with Brenda without changing, things will continue down the same path. So, finally, he confronts his issues. He confronts the Kurgan, which is now one of the last 2 immortals. Connor's no longer escaping. He's responding in kind to the Kurgan, but what's different about him? Why is he doing it now when he didn't do it back in like 1500 or whatever? I think the difference is knowledge. I think he knows more. He learned something. But what? If you've watched this movie, and once again, I recommend that you do that, you know what happens. Connor wins in the end. Good beats evil. Captain America defeats the Red Skull. Superman beats Lex Luthor. Connor beats the Kurgan. But it's the revelation that makes this movie interesting. Connor's eyes become opened. He knows everything, all of the thoughts of the people around the world. Likewise, he's now able to have children and die. So he can have a family with Brenda finally. Just like he wanted all those years ago with his first wife. But what of the quickening? Who or what was born out of this tournament of immortals? I don't get it. Does that mean there's going to be more immortals later and there's going to be another quickening? There's an implication that that's the case. In a sense, a new age was born with Connor as its catalyst. With the game over, Connor can try to spread understanding. He can build a new life with Brenda. I mean, he certainly has a vast knowledge of history. He's got experience to build on. I mean, this new knowledge will definitely help him with that in mind. So Connor has this ability, and now he can share his gifts with all of humanity. But this fits in with the initial problem that Connor had. You remember how I said when he first died and came back, they thought he was like possessed by a devil? It was a misunderstanding. And this lack of understanding is now something Connor can address for all mankind. The quickening having birth implications might also hint at understanding knowledge as being born from the mind. Sort of like Athena bursting from Zeus's brain or head. Socrates considered himself an intellectual midwife. In the same way, understanding seems to be the theme of Highlander. There was misunderstanding. There was a lack of understanding. And then finally, we have the means to understand each other at the end. Knowledge was the ultimate reward. Yes, family. Yes, connections. But it's spreading that understanding that's the key. That's why I like Highlander. I think it makes you think about important topics. Stuff you wouldn't expect from an 80s cheese action flick with swords. Thanks for watching. I hope you like Highlander a little more if you liked it. And if you didn't like Highlander, I hope you enjoyed this video at least. Also, you should like Highlander. If you disagree with me, you're wrong. That's how that goes. No, I'm just joking. You can like what you like. I don't care.